on vinyl and vision.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning into the latest episode of Vinyl and Vision. Here we are with episode 65. Today's very special guest is Niimi. Niimi is a talented songwriter and musician and writer from Chicago. He's currently in a band called Man's Body, and they have a new album out called A Set of Steak Knives. This album is released on NocturnalSol, and there is currently a vinyl pressing available of it. This single for 40 Ounce Kid also has a music video that they have created for it, and has been directed by Steve Hanft, the director for most notably Beck's first video, Loser. Very cool video. I will provide links in the show notes to that video if you care to take a gander at it. And yeah, Man's Body is a very cool band consisting of Greg Franco from Los Angeles and Jay in Chicago. They have a show coming up on April 22nd at Burlington Bar in Chicago. That's the next available date of theirs, and they have other shows coming up that Jay was not able to disclose as of right now. They have not been announced, but if you follow them on social medias, which I will provide links for in the show notes as well, you will find updates to those as they become available. So I was approached with the idea of speaking to Jay, which was great. I had no conditions to have this conversation. I was very open to it. And then I was informed that he wanted to speak about REM's debut record, Murmur, from 1983. And then I was informed that Jay wrote one of the books on that topic. This is a 33 1/3 book, REM's Murmur, which is a very prestigious book series on important records. So that kind of made me a little intimidated, I gotta admit. But it turns out Jay is a great person and very easy to speak with. So I actually, I actually had a great conversation with him, and we tackled a very difficult topic. I'm going to tell you that. I mean, I read this book, I listened to the album. It is difficult. As far as what we do here on this show, I'm not going to say it's different, but it was so hard. I tried to kind of take things in a little bit of a different direction, try to get focus more on Jay, less on the subject matter. But it was great, and so I thank you guys for tuning in and listening. If you care to do all those things you do with the internet, is all that we ask for you here is, do the like, sharing, subscribing, commenting, rating, reviewing, and so forth. Any other ing word you can think of, and just check out Man's Body whenever you can. Links will be provided in the show notes to pick up their vinyl record if you are interested in that. You can also do the digital download, of course, and the book. If you actually want to purchase this book, you still can, and as I have, and I will provide links for that as well. Yeah, don't want to make things too long here. Just going to cut to the chase and let you in and say thank you very much for listening, and enjoy. All right. Do you, just because we're talking about it, do you happen to have the vinyl of this record or no?
I'm sorry, I don't know where it is.
Oh, okay. Hey, no big deal, man.
Yeah.
I just figured
I do have my book here.
Oh, that's funny. I have it too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, man. I bought it. When I found out that we were going to do this, I was just like, I might as well pick that up because I've been meaning to pick these up anyway because I figured this seems to pretty much be the authority on records. Is that? Do you think that's true?
That series, yeah, kind of, yeah. Well, yes and no. I mean, the upside and the downside of it is that they're all written by different authors.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are writers, some of them are not professional writers, and so they vary wildly in terms of their approach. And some of them are more historiographical, and some of them are more personal, and some of them are even like fiction-like.
Oh, really?
So they can vary widely, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's weird. I mean, yeah, this is the first one that I've actually read, because
well, I just thought it would be fitting to read it, considering you wrote it.
Yeah.
It was also very
Cool.
intimidating because I was just like, okay, so the the premise of this show is that we talk to somebody and we have them discuss an album that was important to them, and you happen to literally write the book on it.
One of them.
Right. Yeah. No, I know that there are a bunch of them, I guess. Yeah, but it's just funny to. I mean, I see this as you being an authority on it of some sort. I mean, is that fair to say?
I guess so at this point. Yeah, I tend to get interviewed and hit up a lot about REM related stuff. I was interviewed in the Wall Street Journal a couple of years ago when they were tearing the trestle down, the Murmur trestle,
Oh,
on the back cover of Murmur.
yes, I saw about that.
That's in Athens, Georgia, and they were. It was in. They were. Someone was threatening to tear it down, and there was this push to preserve it. And the Wall Street Journal asked my opinion about it. And yeah, I guess I'm quoted on Wikipedia in the entry for sitting still or something. I don't know. I guess I'm becoming an authority. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how did you end up getting that gig?
A friend of mine wrote a book in the series, a really good book called Prince, Sign of the Times, Michelangelo Matos, and he was the first guy I knew to get a contract with them, and so I thought that's pretty cool. Like I'd love to do that, And I was at work, I was at my day job, and I was thinking about it. And I was like, what would I write about? And I instantly thought about Murmur. There was no doubt. So I just simply hit up the publisher and said, can I have the email for the series editor? And they gave it to me, and I emailed him and David Barker, a really nice English guy.
Yeah.
And I ended up submitting a proposal, and then it got approved.
Oh wow. Oh, so you just have to create a proposal for the publishing company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, that's cool. Gives me hope. Maybe I'll go for it one day.
Yeah, it's great. It's the more voices, the better. That's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, yeah. No, you were just saying how you said that there was no question that you were going to pick this album when it came to the idea of possibly writing this book for Bloomsbury. How did you know so definitively? Why was it such a no question?
It just I don't know. It just kind of jumped. Partially, it just sort of jumped to the front of my brain. It was like, oh, that's an obvious choice. Murmur. It's just a favorite, perennial favorite of mine.
Right.
Beyond that, I thought I might have something to say about it. I thought, I'd been collecting years of observations and thoughts and impressions about the record, and I thought maybe I would have something to say, contribute. And then also my biography kind of overlaps a little bit. Like I went to college in Georgia and crossed paths with REM a few times, and so some of that comes into the book and as kind of a memoir-ish angle.
Right.
So yeah, a few different things, I guess.
Oh, okay. I don't remember in the book you mentioning that you met them. I thought that was that was the biggest question in my mind, is if you actually got to meet them because of this book.
Yeah, maybe I didn't mention it in the book. I've met Michael Stipe a couple times, and I met Peter Buck briefly once, but I wasn't able to get interviews with them for the book. I just couldn't make that happen. It's interesting, and when you compare the Murmur era Michael Stipe with the kind of modern era Michael Stipe as a celebrity, very different people, Yeah, he's not like the A-list guy like he is now. Like he was a pretty weird, arty,
right,
dark
reserved
kind of guy. Yeah,
reserved, kind of reclusive artist type.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I watched some interviews with him from back then, like in the early '80s, and I'm just like, yeah, he's super awkward. Like, he's just such a hard guy to talk to. It seemed like, it's like just so cryptic and enigmatic, and like he spoke in riddles. He's very like Bob Dylan-esque, like in that kind of like ability to just kind of shoot down reporters and interviewers and stuff.
Yeah, with silence, awkward silence.
Yeah.
Their TV debut on David Letterman. David Letterman didn't even talk to Michael Stipe. Stipe sat in the background on the drum riser while he interviewed the other three guys.
Oh yeah, yeah. He definitely seemed like a strange dude.
When I met him, he was a real nice guy. The couple times I met him,
I'm sure in person,
super
like, you know,
nice guy.
yeah, I'm sure if there's not some type of agenda, you know, if it's not a person with a microphone or a camera in his face, you know, trying to ask questions about the music and all that stuff, and because
Yeah,
he seemed pretty, you know, off put by the whole idea that there's all these people out there that are like, you know, analyzing the words in particular to REM's music, which is obviously very personal to him.
hmm
So yeah, it doesn't seem like he likes that. It just kind of annoys him.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. I sort of have this weird notion that I think Peter Buck would probably like my book. I don't know if Michael Stipe would like it too much. I think he would think I was too presumptuous or something. But
Well,
um,
that's the fault of the writers. You kind of can't avoid it. Like if you're going to write about REM or even speak about them like we're going to tonight, I mean, it's hard to not be a little analytical,
true.
and you know,
Yeah.
and just you know, provide your own kind of opinion on what it means and possibly what it means to you. I mean, I guess to say, and I don't think you did this in the book at all. I don't think you ever said definitively like this is what this means.
Right.
You know,
I wanted to stay. Yeah. I
it's
wanted to
all
stay true
interpretive.
to the spirit of the book of sorry, the spirit of the record in the book.
Sure.
Where things are left a little bit ambiguous.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and open to personal interpretation. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you did a great job. I mean, I read it the whole thing already, and it's a great novel.
Oh,
It's a great little
no,
book.
thank you.
It makes me, you know, wish I had read more of these. Like, I could have probably been using these for years, and I just haven't been doing them.
They're great. They fit in your pocket. They're good on airplanes too.
I noticed that. I was just like, I got this little jacket. I just put this right on the inside. It was perfect.
That's right.
So Jay, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your own history. So you currently are part of a band called Man's Body in
That's
Chicago.
right. Yes.
So what's the story with that? Because I had a little bit of a bio, but it was little confusing for me.
Yeah, we're it's confusing to us too right now. We
Yeah.
just yeah we were a three piece and then we just recently became just a two piece. So we were a pretty minimal unit to begin with, three guys. Now it's really just me and Greg, our singer. I
Okay.
play guitar. We
Yep.
both write the songs, and we for playing live we get a rhythm section, and for recording we bring in all sorts of studio musicians. So
Mm-hmm.
I like to think we're sort of almost like a punk rock, post punk, like Steely Dan or something. Like we write these songs and then we bring in people as we need them to fill in
Yeah.
what the necessary elements.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I mean, I've listened to the records. There's only two full length Man's Body records right now, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I've listened to both of those, and they're excellent. They are actually
Huh.
like really good quality, like clean productions.
Hmm.
And I found it like I think maybe it was that first one. What's the first one? The like
Put
what's
your
the first one?
family in it.
Put Your Family. Yeah, yeah. Listening to that one for the first time, it kind of reminded me of like that band from the '90s, the Brand Van 3000. Do you remember them?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah, because it was
I
kind of
remember
like,
that.
yeah, it was like a you know polished, like well produced, like kind of pop music, but like
Hmm.
with a little bit of an edge. Like every song, like you kind of didn't know where it was gonna go necessarily, and the lyricist is kind of like is a great singer, you know, but always kind of had this weird like kind of turn of phrases in their lyrics and kind of like weird and kind of humorous, sometimes maybe even a little dark, you know.
Yeah, interesting. I'll have to go check them out again.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I've heard it, but it just kind of, for some reason, like immediately clicked with me. It was just like that reminds me of
It's
like Brain
funny.
Van.
That's
Yeah,
a new comparison.
yeah. What do you normally get?
I don't know. The problem is I don't know what I would compare us to.
Hmm.
So I can't really blame anybody else for falling short. I guess we could compare it to like the Pixies sometimes, or
I can see that.
Dinosaur Jr. I don't think we really sound like either one of them,
Right.
um, but I guess maybe you could say like we have kind of a common mindset or something, like a common approach,
Hmm.
not necessarily sonically the same, but similar philosophies maybe about how we make music.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, because so normally when I speak to somebody that normally when I speak to artists about a record that's important to them and that was influential to them, more times than not you can kind of hear the connection. But this is not one of those situations. Like what you're doing currently with Man's Body, I don't feel like is very similar to REM.
It's definitely in there,
Yeah.
as an influence.
Oh, as
I
an
mean,
influence, of course, because it influences you, and you're one
yeah.
of the writers. But I'm just saying, like the way that it comes off, like the way that it sounds, the recordings of Man's Body
Oh,
doesn't necessarily isn't like a parallel to stylistically what REM is.
yeah, maybe not. I don't know. We did a cover of Driver 8 that we released as a single a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
We like REM. Greg likes
Obviously,
REM, I know a lot, like I do, and so that I think the influence is in there, along jumbled up with a lot of other influences,
sure.
especially even non-musical influences.
Yep.
But yeah, REM. I mean, I totally cut my teeth on REM, learning how to play those riffs when I was a
Hmm.
teenager, when I was first learning how to play guitar and be in a band. We covered all those early REM songs, and
Oh, okay.
so yeah, it's totally where my heart is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so tell me about that a little bit. I mean, so I believe you mentioned it in the book, like when you first picked up that record. Was it when you were 13 at the in a mall in Chicago?
Yeah, that's right. In the suburbs, north suburbs of Chicago, where I grew up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went to this cheesy mall that we used to hang out at, and went to the Music Land or whatever, and Sam Goody or something, and got the REM record, and I think I had heard Radio Free Europe on MTV. I think that's what spurred me to get it.
Hmm.
I think I saw the video for Radio Free Europe. So, anyways, I got it, and but yeah, I think I talk about this in the book a little bit. I wasn't really knocked out by the art until I got it on LP later.
Right.
I think then I got it on CD, and then I got it on LP. And boy, 12 by 12, that cover is really striking. It's a really
Yeah.
beautiful piece of art.
Huh. Yeah, I kind of felt your pain describing the cassette that you were looking at, like looking at your book, because I was just like, this is my reference right here, and must be what it felt like to have that cassette in your hand.
It's funny now because when I wrote that, cassettes were still pretty obscure. I mean, they were sort of a lost technology, but now they're coming back.
I know they
I
are.
hope people aren't offended by that.
I mean, it was of the times, maybe they'll consider when this was published and all that, but I mean, it's still kind of like a weird media. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
The larger point I was getting at was, everything being made of plastic or something,
right,
everything being cheap and disposable.
right. But then also not being able to really kind of like take in the artwork of this record, and I
Right.
imagine that I've never seen this record nor the CD version of this, but I can imagine how. I don't know what all the other art is. Like I've seen the back cover since because I researched it because I wanted to see what those what is it called, trellises?
Yeah, the train trellis. Yeah,
Yeah. I wanted to see what those were about because I had heard about them in the research, and
sorry, trestle. Sorry, trestle.
yeah,
Train trestle.
right. So I looked at that, and I mean, I can imagine the cassette. It was just like all you get is this little square picture of the cover, and
Yeah,
then yeah,
yeah. It falls short as an object.
right.
To me, I'm a big vinyl collector. I love LPs. I
Okay.
always have since I was a kid, and I've been collecting them for upwards of whatever 40 years now or something.
Yeah.
And I always just like the objectness of them. You can kind of manipulate it in your hand and look at the front, look at the back, and sometimes there's an insert, a little surprise on the inside.
Right.
Maybe the vinyl has an interesting color.
Mhm.
There's art, there's little, there's like a secret message sometimes scratched on the run out groove.
Yep.
There's all sorts of, it's a neat object of art.
Right. It's an art in and of itself. I mean, like,
Yeah,
the music is obviously great depending on what record you bought and if you like it or not. But then, yeah,
sure.
the actual image of it, the tactile kind of feeling of it as well is very, very satisfying, I guess, in a strange way.
It completes the aesthetic experience. Yeah, I think.
Right. Cool. Well, so again, getting back to a little bit to about yourself. So you're 13 when you find this record, right?
Hmm.
And like, what was the inspiration to pick it up in the first place? Was it just the video you said you saw, the Radio Free Europe?
Yeah, I think I was really taken aback by that video. I
Mm.
might have read something in no, Spin wasn't around yet. Spin didn't come out till '84, I think, or '85.
Hmm.
So maybe it was a fanzine or something. I read something about them also, but
Oh, okay.
um, I think it was mainly that video. It was a pretty cool video. I think, if I recall, it was like a Howard Finster thing. Like they're in Howard Finster's magical garden, that's made out of recycled bicycle parts and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's the video. It's really mysterious and cool.
Yeah. Well, and videos were so new then too. I mean, like any
Yeah,
video. I mean, everything on MTV was kind of like majestic in a way.
you could do anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
So,
could just do anything.
so what were you like? What was your experience with music up to that point? Like, were you already listening to stuff and kind of like into music, or like were you playing any instruments by that point?
Yeah, no, I wasn't playing any instruments. I didn't take up guitar till I was about 14,
Oh, okay.
partly because of REM. But I've always been a huge music fan, like ever since I can remember, literally, like going back to being a little kid. Like I used to listen to the radio in bed, AM radio,
Mm.
WLS in Chicago with AM 89, and listen to, at the time, I guess, oldies and classic rock, like 70s music, 60s and 70s stuff. This is
Okay.
in the 70s.
Right.
So I already had a big foundation. That was I cut my teeth on like FM radio, really, like AM and FM, listening to MOR radio and or sorry, AOR radio and listening to the hot hits of the day and all that. And so yeah, but then REM, I guess. So I discovered REM in around '83 when Murmur came out, and I think I discovered punk rock probably the year before that,
Oh,
'82.
okay.
When I kind of really started to start paying attention to punk rock.
Yeah.
I had heard about this thing, like because I had heard about Sid Vicious, the Sex Pistols and stuff. I don't know. I didn't really understand it, but I think when I was about 12, I saw that movie Erg: A Music War, um,
Oh, okay.
which it's really a kind of an amazing time capsule of all these great post-punk bands. And that just kind of blew my mind wide open. It still does to this day.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so that I guess I had that eye-opening experience with punk rock just right before I discovered REM.
Hmm. So then, what did REM do to your punk rock mind at that point?
I mean, I didn't really have a punk rock mind. I was sort of open. I was still sort of searching and
Right. Well, I
didn't
mean,
really have a
but
musical identity.
did you like consider REM to be punk?
No, I wasn't. I didn't understand what they were. Like I thought they were intriguing. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's what I liked about them is I couldn't quite put my finger on what they were about.
Right.
Can't make out the lyrics. The production's really weird, and it's songs are obscure, and it's the art is obscure. Everything about it is weird and alien.
Yeah, yeah. And I can only imagine, like, you know, I I would imagine you were an unsophisticated 13-year-old. You know, I mean, like,
Yeah,
I would say the same about myself. Like, if I listened to this when I was 13, I can only imagine that I would probably be turned off by it at first because it's just so different and weird. I mean, like, I'm listening to this now as a 42-year-old, and I'm
yeah.
like, what the fuck is happening?
It's a record you can definitely grow into.
Yeah.
By the same token, like I think of music as I think what music has done for me and over the years is that one of the profound things is that it's opened up a sort of emotional world that I may not have had access to yet
Mm,
otherwise. Like
yeah.
I think the Beatles did that to me when I was about 8 or 9 years old when I first discovered the Beatles. Um,
Mm,
just they sort of like opened the door to this world of imagination that I didn't really think about before, or didn't consider.
Right.
So REM was part of that continuum, I think, with Murmur.
Yeah.
You know, just sort of really a real head scratcher, something that really grabbed my attention.
Okay. Cool. And so I was trying to do a little research on you and your kind of music history. What was the first band that you were in after you started learning music?
In high school, I was in a band called Fussy Pussy.
Okay.
You're
a drummer too, right?
Yeah, yeah. I played drums. I took up drums later in college.
Oh, okay.
But
So
I
it
was
was
kind of
guitar.
college age. So
Guitar
I
first.
started out on guitar. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was in this goofy band, Fussy Pussy, which actually, you know, when looking back on it, they were not too bad. We were not that bad. We wrote our own music, and that was kind of a cool thing. I mean, not
Yeah.
a lot of bands did that in my high school. They were just a lot of cover bands, but
Right.
not bands that would play the sock hop and play a whole set of original music, you know.
Oh yeah.
So that was kind of where I first learned how to play guitar and write songs and stuff. Then I was in a punk rock band called Squelch in Chicago that was kind of short-lived, pretty fun band. We recorded with Steve Albini at his house,
Oh, cool.
his home studio before he built his big studio.
Yeah, yeah. That name sounds familiar. Was that on any comps or anything?
What's that?
Squelch.
Squelch? No, we never put anything out in the day.
Oh, okay. So what'd you do with that recording with Steve Albini?
Nothing really. I mean,
It was
it's
just a
on
demo?
YouTube.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's not. We didn't really do anything with it.
Oh, okay.
But then let's see. Then I was in a few different projects, and then I was in this band Ashtray Boy, starting around '92, spring of
right.
'92. We started with this Australian guy Randall Lee, who
Hmm.
was in the Cananes. This band, the Cananes, is really kind of a legendary Australian band.
Oh,
And he was in a band called Nice that was also really good. But so we were playing together. Really, I mean, we were playing. Our last album came out in 2015.
yeah. I saw that.
So that was our 10th album. So we're still. I don't really play with him anymore because I'm kind of busy with Man's Body, but
Hmm.
he's still active and making music. But that was a pretty long-lived band.
So,
And yeah,
you played throughout the entirety of that band?
yeah, off
'Cause
and
I-
on for 20 some years. Yeah.
Because I mean, I remember reading something about that the singer Randall going back to New Zealand, where he was from, right?
Yeah, Australia. Yeah,
Australia. I'm sorry.
yeah.
But so I mean, did you go to Australia with him? I mean, how did that work?
Yeah,
Or did you?
yeah. He came here. I went there.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, we kind of made it work.
Oh, I see.
It's kind of like it with Greg right now. Greg lives in LA. I live in Chicago. We fly back and forth, and we use the internet to its full capabilities for sending files back and forth for songwriting and recording and stuff like that. Mixing.
All right.
We're mixing a record right now and over the internet.
I just heard about this. Not your record, but I just heard about people doing that. I was just like, oh, that's crazy. I never
Yeah.
even thought about it. Yeah,
Now with high speed internet, it's possible.
that's great.
It's great.
How cool. Yeah, you can get so much more stuff done so much more quickly now.
I know it's insane.
Cool. Well, so you're working on a new record with Man's Body now,
Yeah.
and the last record that came out was a set of steak knives, right?
Yes, that's our new record. Yeah.
Great, right. So I didn't realize it was already out. I thought it was like,
Well, it came out digitally last year, but because of the whole COVID thing, we didn't really get a chance to do anything with it. We couldn't play out and
oh, right.
we couldn't promote it,
Right.
So it just kind of it was out there, but it wasn't really out there. And then we got the vinyl finally, and then when we got the vinyl, then we really launched it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's kind of being launched. It's kind of coming out right now. The vinyl is just being launched as we speak.
Oh, cool. That's great. Yeah, I thought that was weird because I was just like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I know.
Of course, the pandemic screwed everything up. Right? It's just like it's not everything is working on the normal timeline that it should be.
Yeah, it was a total pandemic thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, now pandemic related and all that stuff. I mean, like, what are gigs looking like for you at this point?
We've got a lot of up our sleeve. well, we've got a show in Chicago next month.
Yep.
2 shows in Chicago next month at the end of April, and then I'm sure we'll have some shows over the summer, but we're probably going to. I can't really announce it yet, but we're going to be opening some dates for a pretty great band that we're pretty proud about
Cool.
opening for on the West Coast
Nice.
in October. I think October, November. So that's coming up, and then Greg and I are probably going to New Zealand in January next year to tour.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with Man's Body,
Oh cool.
with a different version of Man's Body.
Right, right. Because you're just gonna pick up players that can.
Yeah,
that can make it.
we're gonna have a rhythm section down there.
Oh nice. Oh cool. Well, so you guys are gonna be touring. That's good. That's kind of what I was curious about because I mean, tours are still kind of like hit or miss. Like can be canceled on a moment's notice and so forth. So
Right.
it's tricky times.
Yeah.
Man.
We lost the whole year in 2020. We had booked quite a few shows, and they all just got canceled.
Right.
All this work that we put in.
I know, man. I'm sorry to hear. I mean, not that you were the only ones, but it's just such a bummer that this. I can't believe that this has been going on this long.
I know, it's unreal. It's uncanny.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, man, this record, it was hard for me. It was really hard. Like compared to what I do on this show, I mean, I was lost for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
I was reading your book, and I'm just like, okay. So I kind of I was listening to the record, reading the book, and so I kind of knew, okay, this is going to be perplexing. There's going to be some stuff that's going to be a little hard here, especially lyric wise.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I was like, this was work. Like
I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, the record is so inscrutable, and then the book is pretty detailed, on top of it. So
yeah,
I think trying to apprehend both for the first time at the same time would be pretty overwhelming.
yeah. I mean, and I luckily had a good amount of time to do it. I had at least about a good solid week of being able to kind of work with it here and there, not overwhelm myself too much. But man, Michael Stipe and his lyrics, what they're doing musically, it's so weird. I had no idea. I've always kind of discredited them because being growing up in the 80s, because I'm 42 now, so it's I missed their kind of debut. I missed them starting out, and just kind of remember hearing stuff on the radio already and not even knowing, okay, well, where does this fall in their catalog? It's just, this is just the next pop song. This is just the next hit,
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea. I had no idea that they were this kind of artistic.
Yeah, well, they sounded pretty different than what was on the radio at the time in 1983.
Right.
They didn't, and I think it was a deliberate choice on their part. They picked instruments that were not the trendy instruments of the time. They didn't use any synthesizers or keyboards, guitars, or any drum machines or anything goofy like that. They didn't really use a lot of effects. The effects they did use, they used very judiciously. But instead they're using instruments like piano, strings, hand percussion, organs, 12-string guitar, mandolin, stuff like that. Things that were not really, in vogue at the time.
Right.
So consequently, it sounded really different.
So now that you mentioned a little bit about the the kind of detail that they went into recording the album, I was just curious, with all the attention to detail that you managed to detail in your book about the recording process and the studio and the methods in which that they recorded. Have you ever considered trying to use any of the techniques you knew that they did on this record on your own recordings?
I do. I have, and I do.
Yeah.
I mean, if not to the letter, definitely to the spirit, because there are lots of really pretty inventive recording techniques that were employed on the record. Like I think it's "We Walk," the song "We Walk." At the end, there's this sort of weird, kind of cloudy, explosive, kind of murky, thunder-like sound. This boom, yeah.
Yeah.
And the way they got it was there was a billiards table and they were playing pool and they recorded it and then slowed it way down, slowed the tape way down, so that the balls cracking into each other, sounded like a bomb going off or something.
Yeah.
So and then I think that's what was it. Moral Kiosk in the pre-chorus. There's this like sort of chanty sound, and they're slapping their jeans and going,
right.
huh, huh. And also in that song, there's sort of a snap sound, and they found spare like parquet flooring that was left over when they built the studio, and they would take two pieces of it and slap it together, and that's how they got that smack sound.
Oh, weird.
So they were pretty inventive, They're pretty creative.
Yeah, I love hearing that stuff. I typically like the really in-depth documentaries, especially stuff that are in the studio, so you can kind of like see what they're doing.
Yeah.
But this is the next best thing. I mean, like, the written document of kind of the process, and I mean, you're very thorough in the book. I mean, it's really impressive. I really appreciated it.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I got a lot of help from Mitch Easter and Don Dixon, the two guys who produced the record, engineered the record. They were really helpful. I mean, Mitch even went so far as to dig out the original master tapes that he had somehow, or he had copies or something, and because he knew he had tracking sheets where Stipe had written lyrics down on the other side of them, on the blank side.
Okay.
In the studio, like when he was writing, he was coming up with new lyrics for the songs on the spot, and so we were trying to figure out what is he saying in such and such song, and he was able to find Stipe's actual notes from the studio of what he was singing.
Right. Yeah, I saw that note that you put in the book. So I mean, would you because that was the weird thing too? Is it like because you supply the lyrics to the songs in this book?
Yeah.
And is it because they're kind of like in question? Is there no like official document of like what the lyrics were?
I would imagine if you would get piano music for Murmur, published sheet music, it would probably have to have the lyrics on it.
Right.
And they'd probably have to get those from the artist or the writer. So, maybe that's a way to finalize it. But
weird.
The way I describe my set of lyrics in the back of the book is that they're sort of triangulated. There's like, they're going from what do I think he's singing to, what's documented, what are some notes, what are the studio notes say that Mitch gave me and this and that. And then also, what was he doing in live versions from around that time? Right. So for the book, I actually found a collector in Canada who had a ton of REM bootlegs, and I bought a bunch of early bootlegs of live shows from around that time, from the early 80s, and used it as in my research to kind of figure out what is he really saying? How did it evolve? How did it change?
Interesting. Yeah. Plus, something that I picked up on. I believe you mentioned in your book, and then I probably saw it in some other research that I had done as well, where he kind of like doesn't use grammar correctly. Like he'll just kind of like skip words or something, or he'll just like say things in a strange way that it's not grammatically correct. And so then that makes things harder for other listeners to interpret as well. I'm assuming that when this record came out, it was never printed with lyrics?
No.
Right.
Oh,
so
definitely. Yeah,
so that leads a whole generation of people to, be curious of what exactly is happening there too, because then, you know, I mean, some of the great, you know, the great part about listening to records, especially back then in the day before computers, is that you sit with it and just kind of like digest it, right? Like piece by
Right.
piece. And
Right.
like the less that they gave you, the more you'd have to kind of like be left up to your own devices to figure it out, right?
Right. Fill it in mentally. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We should probably get into this record a little bit. So in your book, you state that interpretation of rock lyrics is a perilous and often embarrassing prospect. But we're going to go ahead and try to tackle them anyway.
Yeah.
So the first song is Radio Free Europe. Okay, so we were already kind of discussing some of this. We were talking about the lyrics and how you kind of triangulated them between multiple references.
Yeah.
And you also thank Mitch Easter for supplying you with Michael Stipe's handwritten lyrics.
Hmm.
Now, you were just saying this was written on the back of the master tapes. This isn't like a sheet of music?
No, it was written on the back in Stipe's hand on the back of a track sheet.
Wow, wild. That's great, man. I mean, how did it feel to be holding on to a
Oh
document
no, I
like
didn't.
that?
I didn't actually hold it in my hands.
Okay.
He went and retrieved it, and then, transcribed what was on it for me.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought
Yeah.
I thought he had possibly like shared this with you.
No, he didn't. He didn't give me a scan of it or anything. Even.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
So so let's see. So the song Radio Free Europe, the phrase "beside yourself" seems to be like the most reoccurring theme, and I'm not going to imply that means anything about what the song is about, but being beside oneself, meaning to be overcome with emotion, whether it be good or bad. I was curious, what is your relationship with radio like today?
With radio?
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I think I'm beside myself with boredom with radio today. It's really in a bad state. It's terrible.
What is radio like in Chicago anyway? I mean, do you even get radio station? I mean, obviously they still exist, but I mean, do you listen to any radio stations?
I do. Not really of my own accord. Like I take a lot of Ubers. Like I have a long commute. So I end up listening to whatever the driver's listening to. Usually top 40 radio, occasionally top 40 country. And it's pretty insipid stuff. I mean, it's a lot of talk radio in Chicago, a lot of, there used to be some good classic rock stations and good oldies stations, and those have been sort of put by the wayside. There's one good radio station in Chicago that I like. That's about it.
What station?
Like a soft rock station, yeah.
Soft rock station of all things.
Yeah, it's like oldies, soft rock, singer-songwriter music.
So, what do you think about modern music today? Like, is there anything that you're digging on currently?
Yeah, definitely. From the underground, from indie rock, there's all sorts of great stuff happening.
Sure.
I don't pay much attention to the top 40 popular music. I think it's in a terrible state right now. It's just like the songs are so formulaic and so repetitive, and
uniform.
They all have that the millennial whoop in them. I just don't have much use for it. But there's plenty of current bands that I'm digging.
Yeah. What about the scene in Chicago? Any like good? I say local, but I don't necessarily mean specifically local. Bands, working bands in Chicago that you're interested in.
Yeah. Every time we play here, we play with some great bands. Chicago has an excellent music scene.
I would hope so. Yeah. I mean, it's a great city.
The big city, and the cool thing about it, I always say, is whatever genre you're playing, if it's like, bluegrass or like harsh electronic noise or whatever, hip hop, you'll find an audience for it in Chicago. There's an audience for anything you're doing.
Right.
You can build an audience.
Sure. I mean, much like New York City. I mean, it's one of those big metropolises, right?
Yeah. Although I think it's probably still better than New York even.
Yeah.
New York's pretty played out, you know.
Hmm.
The rents have kind of driven everybody out, and you know it's hard to find a rehearsal space. It's hard to find a place to play.
Right.
It's hard to get people to go to shows in New
True.
York.
Yeah. I mean, my experience with New York has been like, you play a show, and regardless of what slot you're playing, you either have an audience or you don't.
Yeah,
Like if people are there to see you, they're going to be there to see you. If they're not there to see you, they're going to leave.
they clear out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's rough. Rough city.
yeah,
man.
it's brutal. Yeah. Chicago's a little different. Chicago's a little more sporting.
Yeah, yeah. I've only been there once. Maybe twice. I think I may have been there twice, gigging with a band, and I remember it being good. I mean, it was a DIY little indie band, so we didn't really have a following anyway, so it was all just luck.
Yeah.
If anyone was there, it was just all luck.
Yeah,
But I remember it being good. I remember, enjoying it.
luck is good sometimes. It's good.
Sometimes it's all you got.
You never know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, never know
But
what can happen.
Good city though. Good time.
Yeah.
All right, well let's move on to the next song, Pilgrimage.
Yeah.
I don't think this was in your book, but did I read correctly that IRS didn't want Easter and Dixon to produce this album, so the band demoed this song with them to present for the label's approval?
I believe that's true. Yeah, I think that's true. This was one of the songs they demoed. I think in New York or something. Yeah,
Okay. But specifically, like, because
to try to get on IRS
to prove
to
to
try to-
IRS that
to prove
Easter
to
and
IRS that
Dixon
to prove. I see what you're saying.
that
Yeah.
they wanted them as producers, and IRS didn't want
Wasn't
these like
going.
nobody producers to produce the record.
Right. I'm not sure about. Sounds plausible.
All right, but they did demo this song.
Yeah, I think they did.
I think if anyone is going to look at these lyrics for this record, if they haven't already, if they're not already familiar with them, I mean, it's perplexing. I mean, it is certainly art. It is certainly poetry. And I think that anyone can pull whatever they want out of these songs.
Hmm.
Yeah. But so Pilgrimage, I mean, this is one of those things. Like just the title alone is kind of like asking for something. It's kind of like, sounds heavy. Sounds like this could be a very complex and complicated thing, right?
Yeah.
But because what we were talking about them demoing this to kind of win over IRS, win over Easter and Dixon to produce the record,
Hmm.
has there ever been anything that you or your band had to fight to get?
No. The bands I've been in have always been on really small handshake labels,
Right.
just where we got full like leeway to do whatever we wanted, really.
Right.
I've never been in a band that's been on like a major label where we had that sort of pressure.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what that would feel like. Yeah, that'd be tough, REM, when they signed their contract, their like huge ass contract around the time of Green, whatever that was, 89 or 90.
Oh, right.
It was a record breaking deal. They got complete creative control, so
Right.
that was unheard of,
From Warner Brothers, of all places.
Warner Brothers, yes.
Huh. And millions of dollars to boot.
Right. Some huge amount, yeah.
Yeah, I just heard about that today. I'm like, I mean, but I guess they deserve it. I mean, like, I've really developed a profound appreciation for them.
Yeah, they deserve it,
Yeah.
I think so.
Well, they're no bullshit. Like, I think
They
that's
came
the
up-
thing that
yeah.
that's what I kind of like didn't like about them when I was growing up. I was just like, oh, this is kind of like this artsy band. They're like artsy fartsy. They kind of like
Yeah.
think too much of themselves type thing.
Right.
But now that I'm like, I saw all these old interviews and kind of like tracking their career from this point, their debut album up till like, when the Warner Brothers changeover happened.
Mhm.
I'm like, wow, yeah, they have been swearing up and down that this is it, that they are doing what they want to do under their terms and under no other circumstances. Like they are making no No concessions whatsoever.
That's how they've always operated. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, you can't say that about too many bands.
Right. Right. So yeah, they have my respect now. I mean, now that I've finally gotten into it.
Hmm.
So the next song is "Laughing."
Oh yeah,
This was a hard one.
great song.
It is a great
One
song.
of my favorites.
I mean, so there's that mythology of Laocoon. How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, Laocoon, I guess.
Laocoon, yeah,
Laocoon.
something like that.
Yeah, Laocoon and her two sons.
Well,
Laocoon, huh?
it was supposed to be his two sons, right? I mean,
His two sons? Yeah. His what he says his two sons, right?
No, in the lyrics he says her two sons.
Her two sons, right? In the mythology, Laocoon is a man,
Correct. Yeah.
so he switched that
Yeah.
on purpose. Yeah, I had to look that one up.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's from Greek mythology,
Right.
or Greek or Roman mythology. I can't remember. It's an old. There's a famous statue of Laocoon with the
With his
sons.
with his two children
Yeah.
being strangled to death or something by the serpents from Apollo or
Yes.
something.
Yes. There's something sinister is happening.
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't really have anything for this song. You know, I was just like, I mean, it's as you're saying, I mean, it's there's something stymied in there in like mythology, but it's also still kind of par for the course with Michael Stipe's lyrics, where it's just not a consistent thing. It's just something that he's just grabbed onto and is using. Yeah, I don't have anything for this song.
Yeah, I don't have a lot. I think the cadences are really nice. The lyrical cadences are really nice, especially the alliteration in the chorus where he says lighted, lighted, laughing, laughing in tune.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
that.
I
you
thought
know.
that was weird. I was singing
Repetition.
along with it today. I was just like, "Oh, that's so strange," because it's like it's so unnatural to like want to do that because you're repeating the word "lighted"
Right.
twice, and then you got that inflection of the. It sounds like you're going to start saying "lighted," but he ends up saying "laughing" in tune.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so weird.
Yeah. He's great at that stuff, alliteration and little grammatical ticks and things. Yeah, grammatical tricks.
Right. All right. Well, let's move on to the next song. Talk about the passion.
Yeah, good song.
It is a good song. Another, kind of just on its face, kind of seems like it's going to be really heavy, and even just like listening to that, like to a brief portion of the song, like I think it was the pre-chorus, is it? I just feel like he's asking me to ask you about the passion.
Yeah. Well, he speaks in French at one point, right? That's the heavy part of the song, the Combien du temps song.
What does that mean? Do you know French?
Times change?
Oh,
Something like
okay.
that? Let me look it up.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Combien du
temps.
temps? Something. Yeah, I know, I'm terrible. I'm going to Paris like in a few months.
Oh,
But
okay.
I gotta start boning up in my French.
Uh,
Combien du temps? I don't know what. I think that means the times change or something like that.
It sounds right. I mean, I know Spanish, and that's kind of like sounds familiar. Like it sounds like kind of similar.
Mhm.
Um,
I didn't know what he was saying until I wrote the book. I was just syllabalizing when I would sing along with it.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, but so the song. I mean, it's asking it literally is like in the chorus, like asking to ask about the passion, but
Yeah.
the passion, I assume, has something to do with religion, and you do mention this in the book how there is just certainly a religious kind of like aspect,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like circling the band. Like it's not necessarily something overt, but it's there.
Right. Stipe as sort of a preacher figure. Yeah.
Did he come from a religious family? Was that what it
Yeah.
was?
His grandfather was a preacher. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so I think he grew up around that. And
Hmm.
so that some of that religiosity comes out in some of the lyrics, yeah, and some of the I talk about this in the book, like some of the musical and sonic trappings of the record too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the kind of the purity of the way it was recorded.
Right.
The name of the studio even was called Reflection Studios. It was like a place for reflection,
Right.
like a church almost.
And they did work with a lot of gospel groups too.
They did, yeah. That was their bread and butter before, around the time REM was recording there.
Right.
But yeah, talk about the passion. There's a theme on the record that has to do with communication, or like breaking the breakdown of communication.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about the passion. That might tie into it a little bit. It's like Stipe's pet theme on this record. Some of the other songs tie into it that we'll get to.
Right. Yes, we certainly will get to it. Now that you mentioned that, I kind of wanted to pull this out. The lyrics that you have here. Empty prayer, empty mouths. Talk about the passion. Not everyone can carry the weight of the world.
Right.
I mean, that kind of speaks to me, kind of specifically saying like it's kind of a Jesus kind of symbolism there of like kind of carrying the cross.
It's something you might hear in church.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I think this one is probably. It seems like the most kind of like direct song.
Yeah, I would say so.
Lyric wise. Yeah.
Yeah, you can make out most of what he's saying, and it kind of there's some thematic consistency to it. Yeah. Internally, yeah.
And now to go along with what you were saying about how this record seems to kind of like tackle like a couple of like specific themes. The next song is Moral Kiosk.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What do you think the Moral Kiosk is?
I don't think it necessarily referred to any specific thing. I think it might have just been like a phrase he liked or something.
Yeah.
Moral Kiosk, I don't know.
Well, because I'm like if you think
of
about
kiosks, I think of kiosks on college campuses, where you post up, I've got a bike for sale or something.
Right. But kiosk,
Yeah.
I think you're right. So it has something to do with this place, this kind of like communal place where you gather and like kind of like share information, whether it be like, bulletin boards of like selling stuff or whatever. But
this
so
thing, a lot of these early REM songs are sort of about like they're kind of like veiled romantic things, that have to do with Michael Stipe's personal life.
Right.
And I wonder if that I like that line, so much more attractive inside the Moral Kiosk. I wonder. I always wonder who he's talking about, or what he's talking about there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, we're gonna wonder about a lot of these lyrics. So, so the Moral Kiosk. I was wondering, would this be a place to get morals or a place to question your morals?
Good question. The thing that's neat about the song, I'm going to consult the lyrics myself, is that the chorus hardly gives anything away, right? The chorus is just a series of words. It's like inside, cold, dark, fire, twilight.
Right.
It doesn't really. It's so inscrutable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like I think
it's a great question, though. I don't know how to answer that.
Right. Well, I mean, like just thinking about what you said is like, if like this is a place in college where like it's a bulletin board and kind of like all this stuff. It's just like to refer to it as a moral kiosk. It's just like, what are you going to do at this kiosk? That led me to think like, moral kiosk is he referring to like this as church?
Like a pulpit?
Kind
or
of
something, yeah, maybe.
I mean, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it a synagogue or whatever. But is this like a place of worship, the Moral Kiosk?
It could be. It could also be just, this is off the top of my head, this is in the context of Reagan's America, Reagan's shining house on the hill, the kingdom on the hill. So I think that's something you might want to think about in terms of the context of some of these lyrics. Definitely definitely a song like Radio Free Europe for sure, but maybe even Moral Kiosk. The moral majority was a big thing back then in 1980 or the early 80s.
Hmm.
Um, there was a lot of talk about morality coming back, 50s style morality under Reagan.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. Yeah. I don't remember that too well. I was just a kid in the '80s, but I do get it. I mean, like, there's
Yeah,
certainly I've certainly heard a lot about the Reagan era, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not familiar with the whole Reaganomics and all that shit, but it does sound familiar to me.
yeah, it was a shit show. It wasn't fun.
Yeah. Wait, that's what it was, right? Like, because I think you even maybe mentioned this in the book, where didn't you? How it's just like Reagan was like trying to lead the country to believe in this like kind of like pure, like this, like everything is like perfect and everything is good, and it's kind of like leading people on to believe a certain way, even though that's not necessarily the way that like the world was actually working at that time. I mean, like, because you also
Yeah,
did have the Cold War, I suppose, right?
yeah, it was like American exceptionalism at its peak. You know,
Right.
um, this guy's talking about how he's basically talking manifest destiny. That America is just destined to be the best nation, the rulers of the world. You know,
Right. Hmm.
and I think that probably freaked REM out. I mean, they definitely got political a few albums later, and then they stayed fairly political. They wrote a lot of political songs.
Oh yeah, and they
And I
certainly
think
have a stance. I mean, they
yeah,
certainly,
they
made
were
a point.
politically active themselves, of course.
Right.
But there's little inklings in the early on the early songs too. Sometimes
Yeah, a
I
little
don't
bit,
know.
little bit more cryptic, a little bit more kind of like
Yeah,
veiled than being so straightforward. But yeah, I would say
yeah,
so. I mean, I think that these guys were always kind of like pretty progressive. They're college kids, you know.
right. They went to
So
college.
yeah, yeah. So let's see. The next song is "Perfect Circle."
Hmm,
Certainly a somber tune.
right.
All right.
Written
So
by Bill Berry, their drummer.
yeah, right. But the lyrics are by Stipe.
I'm not sure. Good question. Yeah, I think the lyrics are probably by Stipe.
I think that's
They
what I
sound
remember.
like they are.
Yeah, yeah. I think
But
I remember reading that in the book. I think I remember that.
yeah, I wrote this book a long time ago, so I don't remember everything,
Right,
every
right.
little detail
Sure,
exactly.
sure. I don't expect you. I don't expect you to, but sometimes I've made points to be like, oh yeah, this was a quote from the book, and then sometimes I'm just like, yeah, I'm pretty sure like that was from this book. Yeah. So like in this case, so you have a quote in the book from Peter Buck, essentially describing a situation that was for some reason emotionally overwhelming, but that he wanted to use as the sentiment for this song. Um, can you tell me of a moment that you were struck by overwhelming beauty?
Yeah. Um, yeah. Wow. Um, Similar thing on tour. I was on tour with my band, and I was in a bad way. I was really run down, and just just not in a good place at all. And um, a friend of mine, we were in the car, and one of my bandmates put on this Blue Oyster Cult song called Debbie Denise. You know this song?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Anyways, I was in this really fragile mental state, and the song just kind of shattered my mind with how beautiful it was.
Hmm.
And every time I listen to it, it's just like I'm just taken aback. It's like breathtaking to me.
Right.
It brings me back.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, interesting. I have the same thing, like different music, but it's always music for me for the most part that does that.
mm, me too.
Like I don't remember, like I can't even remember why. I guess it's just because like you're kind of depressed at a point, and then you hear a song that just happens to kind of like really like twist the knife in you a little bit.
Yeah.
Like God Only Knows by the Beach Boys was one for me. Just
Oh
like
yeah.
sit in the back of my brother's girlfriend's car as I don't even know where we're going. I was probably drunk, not
Mm,
feeling it, feeling all depressed, and it was just like, oh my God, this song.
yeah. Yeah, I love those songs. You know, it's funny. I was just having a discussion with this the other night uh, with my ex-wife, or soon to be ex-wife. I guess we're getting divorced now, but
Hmm.
we're separated, but we're still pretty good friends. We talk every day and we hang out and stuff.
Oh, okay.
But so we were talking, and I was I was talking about Interpol. Okay, with Interpol's first album,
Okay.
which I really love. You know,
It's a
and
great one.
yeah, it's a really good record, right? So we used to that was kind of like makeout music for me and my wife when we first started dating.
Oh yeah.
So you know, we'd make out. It was pretty heavy, and we'd be listening to Interpol. And I just threw it on the turntable the other day and posted on Facebook. I was listening to Hey, I'm listening to Interpol, and she was like, "How can you listen to that record? You know, like doesn't it bring back? Doesn't it stab you? You know, in the heart?" I mean, I was like, I said I kind of like stabby music. You know,
Well, they were sweet memories, I'm sure. I mean, like they may be bittersweet now, but I mean,
yeah, they're good. They'll always be good memories, I guess. You know, in a sense. So
right, right.
you know, and I don't know. I don't even necessarily associate the music with just those memories, anyways. You know, I
Sure.
associate them with other memories too. You know, other
Right.
things.
Sure, sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember that. Actually, I was dating a girl in college at the time that record came out, and she and all of her friends were into it. I was just like, oh yeah, this is what we use.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. We're on side two now. We're gonna do Catapult. This is a tricky one because it's like even that name. What does it have to do? What does it have to do with anything? They don't even mention Catapult in the lyrics.
Yeah, this is an odd song.
It's a good
Uh,
one. I like it. I certainly like that it's a little bit more of one of the rocking tunes on the album.
yeah. Oh, you know what? I didn't say that "Perfect Circle" is one of my favorite songs on the record.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I meant to just throw that in there.
That's a sad song.
Yeah, it's really sad. It's really well. It's more melancholy, I think. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
the chorus is great. Heaven assumed, shoulders high in the room. That's another like a grammatically incorrect for
Mm-hmm.
sentence, like you were saying.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyways, yeah. Sorry, catapult. Again, there's that refrain. Did we miss anything? You know,
Right.
that kind of ties into this theme of broken communication, not understanding,
Oh, right, right,
failing to get your point across, or failing to be understood.
right, right. And so this whole side, like, I don't know if that was something that was, you know, maybe that you had realized in some of the research that you did to write this book, but obviously you have grasped some theme of this communication or lack thereof.
Right.
Um, so that's interesting because I don't remember you specifically mentioning this song in lines in line with that theory or that of that theme,
Hmm.
but
Maybe I'm
but
just noticing it now. I'm not sure.
yeah, maybe that's true. Like I said, I mean, or like you said, you don't necessarily remember this book as well as I do at this point, but
It's also the kind of thing, the book is sort of like I discovered is like a lot of other media, like painting or even like writing a song, recording a song, where you just have to. There's never a finished point. There's never a moment where you're like, where the piece reveals itself and is like, okay, it's done. I'm done. Like you just have to stop,
yeah,
And so the book was like that, like it's like that with a painting. You just kind of, especially like an abstract type painting, you know, you can work on it forever. You can just kind of keep tweaking it, but at some point you just have to stop.
right,
And that's how the book was. I just had to stop. It could have ended up being 500 pages or something.
right, yeah.
So
Well,
I'm probably having observations now that if I had written the book now, would have gone in there,
oh right, yeah.
or yeah,
Or there was maybe things that you did kind of write about, but you cut or
yeah,
had cut.
sure,
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, so Catapult. I mean, so this is the song that Stephen Hague ruined for them.
yes,
Stephen Hague
Yes.
being a famous producer, he worked with the Human League and
Mhm.
what was the other band he worked with? New Order, right?
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. I mean, like, so the story is that what? So Stephen Hague was assigned to them essentially because he was some big producer, and obviously IRS wanted
They were
REM to
making,
work.
I believe they were making demos for RCA or some
Oh,
other label.
oh,
And
okay,
that was and Haig was the one that the label picked to do the demos, to
right,
produce the demos.
okay,
And so one of the songs they did was Catapult. I can't remember if they did any other ones, but um, yeah, it's I haven't heard it in a long time, but I remember it as being pretty horrendous. It's got a lot of like
yeah,
lugubrious keyboards all over it, and
right. The
I think
exact opposite of what they wanted to do with this record.
yeah, it sounds like an '80s version of. It sounds like an '80s parody of REM or something.
Hmm. Weird. All right, I'll have to look it up. Um, so can you tell me about your best and worst experience in the studio?
Wow, interesting. I would say probably one of the times when I recorded in another band.
Yeah. Oh,
I
like as a
was
producer or
yeah,
engineer?
as a engineer and producer.
For who?
Um, I just bought Greg a copy of this album that I recorded back in the '90s by this band called Toulouse,
Okay.
like Toulouse-Lautrec, like Toulouse, France. Um, they're a band from Chicago and local band, and I just loved their music, and it was just a joy to work with them on this record.
Hmm.
So I picked up a copy for Greg, and I brought it there last time I was in LA. We listened to it and really enjoyed it again.
Huh.
So that I put that up there. As far as bad experiences, I was in Australia one time. We were recording and at the studio, and just this singer, was kind of being jerky, and I was cranky, and we had a big fight, in the studio. And I
Yeah.
remember talking to the bass player later, who was an Australian guy also, and I was like, "What'd you think about this argument?" And he was like, "I was like, did it like freak you out? Is that was that appalling to you or what?" And he was like, "No, it was kind of refreshing because all the bands I'm in, everyone's so constipated they can't like express what they really feel, and so then everyone's all resentful and silent, and then the band just breaks up."
Hmm. So you were like calling the singer out, kind of like, you know,
Yeah, I can't even remember what it was about, but we were
yeah,
we were at each other's throats about something.
right. Yeah, that's never fun.
No, not fun.
That's the problem with being in bands in the first place. Is that you got to deal with people.
I know, right? Well, it's like they say, you either are a singer or you have to work with a singer.
Huh.
That's the musician's
So you
rule.
work. So you work with a singer now.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Or I work with a singer.
Well, how is
I
that?
sing a
That's
little bit, but he's the main guy.
right. Greg, right, is his name?
Greg Franco, yes.
Greg Franco. Yeah, he's a good singer. Yeah. Well, if
Huh.
you need to stop somewhere in Ireland if you're ever on tour,
Where do you guys live?
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. Okay. Where?
Yeah.
What town?
Well, I live in West Warwick, but you would probably play in Providence if you came through.
Okay.
That's the main city.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's where all
I
the
played
clubs
there
are.
before.
Oh yeah,
Not with Man's Body, but other bands.
sure, sure. Where'd you play? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was Ashtray Boy opened for Oasis
Oh, in Rhode
uh,
Island.
in Providence on their first American tour,
Oh wow.
and it was at some place. What the hell was it called? Um, we opened for them twice on that tour. We played with them in Cleveland as well,
Okay.
and that was at the Grog Shop. I remember.
Oh okay. So
Um,
that kind of small.
yeah,
Oh,
pretty
I
small.
wonder.
Yeah,
Oasis in Providence. Whoa, where did they play? The living room?
something with cafe in the title.
Oh, the Met
maybe.
Cafe.
Yeah, the Met Cafe.
Holy shit, they played the Met Cafe.
Yeah, and we
That's
had
crazy.
they had their giant white tour bus parked right out in front, and we had our little white hatchback Honda Civic parked in front of it because we were touring in a Civic. We were a three-piece band,
Yeah.
and we just crammed everything in there.
Wow. That's crazy.
I was like trying to book the tour, and I called them, and I called the booker at that cafe, and I was like, we're looking for this particular date, and he's like, well, we got this band Oasis, and I was basically I had talked to the place in Cleveland, and they said the same thing, like we got this band Oasis on the night you want, and so I told the guys in Providence, oh, we're playing with them in Cleveland, so we should play with them in your joint too, and he was like, okay. So
Oh,
then I used that. I called back Cleveland and I was like, "Hey, we're playing with them in Rhode Island, so why don't you put us in?" I kind of
that's cool.
bootstrapped, like one to the other.
Yeah, yeah. That's convenient. That was nice.
Dave Trumpio, our bass player, said that one of the two brothers was watching our set one night.
Hmm.
He watched our whole set. Apparently, you saw him on the side.
Oh,
I can't remember which. I don't know much about Oasis, but
yeah. Me neither, really. Never been a big fan.
yeah, I don't really care for him that much.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Very cool story, man. Well, so let's move on to the next song, 9 to 9. So 9 to 9. This is a super tricky one too. Um,
Yeah.
what do you? I guess you were just telling me, but what are your thoughts on this one?
So I think it's this is another song that's kind of about uh you know miscommunication or something. Just that line, pointers turn to lies and conversation fear.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think I talk about this in the book a little bit. That you know, Stipe was he recorded most of the vocals for the album in a little cubby hole under the stairs. That was like there was no light in there.
Right.
He just kind of like sequestered himself.
Yeah.
He was a strange guy. He's a shy guy. I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
I think he didn't really. I think conversation fear was a personal thing for him.
Right. Right. Um, Now, something that was funny, and like I'll just use this opportunity, uh, covering this song because this song is probably the most strange and kind of like just bizarre song. It's
Yeah,
just song wise, like structurally, it's very strange, very bizarre,
yeah.
and then lyrically, it's also very kind of chaotic, and there's like kind of it seems very nonsensical, really. But
Hmm.
so I take this opportunity to mention that I think you quoted Michael Stipe in the book, and I think I actually have the quote here. In reference to his lyric writing, he said, "I also have slow motion and stop action and black and white and color. I always see it before I hear it."
Yes.
So like he's like this very like visual person when it comes to him writing his lyrics, where he actually has stated here from what I just read, and I also saw it in a previous interview with him that he literally sees, like he visualizes these songs before he writes them.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it, it's hard. It's definitely seems like a complicated and difficult thing to do, but it's just the way he works. So
I
have
think it's
you?
just the way he's wired. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So have you ever had a visualization of this song or any REM song?
Um, yeah. Like, it's not on this album, but the song Harbor Coat. It's on. It's the first song on the next album, Reckoning,
Oh, okay.
1984, Reckoning, and yeah, there's just the opening line is like, again, it doesn't really make much linear sense, but something like crowded up to Lenin with their noses worn off. Handshake is worthy if that's all that you've got. Uh, and then there's some other stuff, but like that image of Lenin, Lenin's tomb, and people, and there's a practice in Europe of like rubbing the noses of statues of saints.
Hmm.
It's supposed to be a good luck thing.
Oh,
So you
okay.
see statues, bronze statues, where the noses are worn down to the copper. Like it's shiny. It's a
Yeah.
different, looks different from people rubbing it constantly.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what that's a reference to. So I always picture that when I hear that song,
Oh,
and picture
interesting.
people in Red Square milling around, in raincoats or something.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Cool. Yeah. So I mean, because that's as best as I can do with this song. I think I just to visualize it, just kind of like get lost in it.
Yeah, I think it's meant to be disorienting.
Oh, it is. It was. All right. So next song, "Shaking Through."
Right.
So as we were saying, kind of like sticking to this potential theme for these songs. This is completing the trinity of the communication theme or lack thereof
Mhm.
on this B side. Um,
Yeah.
this one you described as not being heard in the political sense of making your voice known.
Right. Right. Again,
So
it kind of goes back to Reagan and the sort of marginalization of the left in the 80s.
yeah,
And could it be that one small voice doesn't count in the room is the opening line.
okay,
So that's what that's a reference to. Um, but that's just my interpretation. I mean, I'm not really sure what the rest of the song is pretty wide ranging. I'm not sure what he's talking about in the chorus, shaking
hmm,
through opportune.
right.
It's
There's
really cryptic, you know,
a lot of opportune and denial, denying.
denying all the way. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a strange kind of a juxtaposition.
Yeah, it's sort of a tableau of words and it's a Stipe creation again.
Could prove to speak to that whole political politicism of it. Because obviously you usually always have two sides on the politics. So you
Right.
got some people. What was the word we're using here? The opportune. So you have opportunistics, or at least that kind of like opportunistic mentality, and
Hmm.
then you have people that they would be considering are people in denial. So it seems conflicting.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of there's yeah. Oh, there's a line in there that ties into this children of today on parade. Yeah. That kind of ties into what you were just saying.
Yeah, yeah, maybe I don't know. I mean, like, I'd be very hard pressed to say that I've nailed any of these songs. It's been pretty difficult, but I'm very fortunate. I really actually am thankful that I got into this record, kind of for that reason, because I've been doing so much analysis of music, and it's just like, and it's fun. I don't mind it, but I like that this one is going to leave me kind of completely open.
Yeah.
Because like for the most part, a lot of the records I've covered at this point, I have a pretty dead set kind of idea about those. You know, this one, I don't think I'm ever. I have nothing for this record really.
I think that's how it's going to always be. I mean, that's how it's always been for me. You know,
Right.
it's every time I approach it, it's like a blank slate.
Hmm.
I'm approaching it fresh in a fresh way. And that's a tribute to their artistry that they
Right.
can that do that.
Yeah.
You know,
I
um,
agree. Like I said, I have a completely newfound respect.
it's a brilliant record. Yeah, it's really a. They thought this was the only record they would make. Peter Bucks mentioned this in an interview. He said, if we only make one great record, at least we will. At least we can say that we made one great record.
Hmm. Interesting. That's kind of. I just covered PJ Harvey's Dry.
Oh,
Same thing. She said that she thought that was going to be the only record she ever would get the opportunity to make. So she just put everything in it. She just
no,
went for it. Kind of just put everything that she could possibly put into it, as far as like kind of creativity and emotion, and it's a great record.
I think that's what these guys did too. Yeah, similar thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's very cool. All right, well let's move on to the last. Well, not the last song, but the next song, "We Walk."
Yeah, there's a song about Marat,
Yeah, I heard that and I kind of looked it up to kind of figure out what that was.
the famous
Uh,
painting of him killed in the bathtub.
right. So the hand dangling over the edge of the
The bloody hand over the edge of the tub.
yeah.
Yeah. Marat's bathing.
Right. So that's one of the references in this song,
Yes.
or at least like that one is the most connected um, to the reference that in the book you just mentioned it as a shop. You don't to state what it was exactly, but how Michael Stipe had to walk through this shop. Like you have to walk through the bathroom to get to the back room,
Oh yeah,
and that's where he would see this person, like I guess in the tub, and it would remind him of that painting.
I think so. Yeah, and then there's yeah, I think the that yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, I think Stipe took influence from one of these weird Athens apartments where you could easily run into someone naked, by accident.
Hmm.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they were living in some weird kind of squalor type conditions too. I mean, like just that church that they were living in
Yeah,
alone had
they're
like,
squatting in a desanctified church. Yeah.
yeah. So I can imagine. I mean, I actually used to live like that myself in what we used to call Whore Island.
Oh wow.
It's like this like rundown house. There's four of us, four dudes, just kind of like paying bare minimum rent in this like really rundown house, and we just fucking. The guy I lived with was just like this weird artist, and he fucking. The house was just so weirdly decorated. There's just like all of these weird things all over the wall, just scattered throughout. All this art everywhere,
That sounds
and
great.
yeah, yeah, and he was a weird guy, and like he decided to make a still in our house. He was just like literally welded copper pipes together, and I was just like, "What are you doing?" He's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna start brewing. I'm gonna start like distilling alcohol." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Is that gonna blow up?" And he's just like, "It's possible." And he like I remember like him doing the first run. He was just like, "Whatever you do, don't drink that stuff. That's pure ethanol." I'm like, "Okay, cool.
Yeah, no
Why don't you
sweat.
just get rid of that?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
Holy moly.
it was weird. Very weird times in that house. But so it reminded me of that, like like that kind of these young college student artists.
Exactly. Yeah.
But this song, "We Walk." Okay, so first of all, I don't like this song. This song is like the most weird kind of like frolicking in the woods type song.
Yeah, it's got that refrain at the end where he's going. It sounds like he's just vocalizing, but he's saying up. I like that little story about his friend who used to, whenever they would walk up the stairs to their second floor apartment, she'd say up the stairs and to the landing. That was just like
Right.
her rhyme that she would say always, and that he incorporated that into this song. To me, the music is really good though. It's to me they kind of sound like Love and Spoonful or something. Like it's kind of
Sure.
got this cheery '60s jangly kind of vibe.
Right.
Um, yeah, it's a good song. I like it.
Okay.
I like it. Okay.
So so that theme about him having to walk through the bathroom to get to the back room of this shop that he was going in, um,
Yeah.
it just reminds me of like weird setups, weird layouts of some buildings. Made me wonder what was the weirdest gig you've ever had?
Oh man. I could tell you about a few. I mean, let me try to think of a good one. I played one show. I was in this band, and I don't know how the fuck we got this show, but we got to play at a biker commune in Dixon, Illinois,
Hmm.
which is the birthplace of Ronald Reagan. Speaking of Ronald Reagan,
Yeah, huh? Weird.
um, so we drove out there in our van, and these bikers had this pretty nice setup. They had like a sort of a sound stage that they had built out of lumber that was nice, and then there was like they had built up a hill to make sort of a natural amphitheater kind of seating thing where you could sit on this grassy hill
Hmm.
side and watch the music, and you're playing outside. It was in the summer, and we played for these bikers. It was fun. It was an odd gig, but it was good.
Yeah, yeah. So what about a setting? I mean that's a pretty weird setting, but
Yeah.
like any like weirdness like structurally of any building or any kind of like club or anything you had to go in that
stuck out to
Yeah.
you as
Yeah,
being
and
weird?
you were reminding me when you were talking about your squat that you lived in.
Yeah.
One time I stayed at Fort Thunder in
Oh yeah, Providence.
Providence,
Oh, you were
and
stayed there?
yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
and that was trippy. That place was insane. Apparently, for people who don't know, it was in this gigantic old factory building that was essentially almost abandoned, but it was owned by these mobsters who just wanted to keep it around for whatever reason, and so they rented it out dirt cheap to these artists who built the place out like I don't know what, like rats on amphetamines or something. Like they just made these nests almost like these habitats. It's hard to describe,
Right.
but they totally built the whole environment inside out, and with all this art. And there was like a printing shop there where they did screen printing of like rock band posters and stuff.
Oh
And
yeah.
there's a bike repair shop in there and
Yeah, that was peak
all
culinary.
sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was wild.
Yeah, you know what? I never got to go there. I was too young when that was still happening, and like I just barely caught the death throes of it. Like I
Yeah.
think I remember walking through that building like just before they tore it down. So all the artists were already kind of like evicted. There was like just a couple of stragglers at that point.
Oh,
But yeah, I've heard all the stories about that place, and it was amazing, and I'm really happy that you got to experience it. It's pretty unique.
yeah. I spent the night there. Yeah.
That was crazy. What, did you play there or something, or why? How did you spend the night there?
We were playing a gig and somebody at the gig lived there and we needed a place to stay.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. It
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, they were all artists, all musician types, anyways. They know you need a
Yeah.
place to crash sometimes.
They certainly had the space for it.
Yeah, as chaotic as it was, yeah, there's plenty of space. All right, so last song, "West of the Fields."
Good song. Good closing song. I don't, it just seems to work as a wind up for the whole album.
Mm-hmm.
Long gone, west of the fields.
Right now, so I think there's something weird about this song. There's obviously mention of the Elysian Fields, which Greek mythology is where what heroes are laid to rest.
Right. Right.
So with him saying like west of the fields, and if it's in reference to the Elysian Fields, there's something of him saying something along the lines of this, like kind of not like a hero's like burial or acknowledgement, but like someone that fell short of being a hero or something.
Maybe I'm not sure if he's talking about actual fields like wheat fields or something like that you'd see in Georgia,
Oh, right. And
or and he's just kind of tying in this notion of Elysian fields. I don't, yeah, I'm not sure.
hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know what? I don't really have a question for this song. It was kind of like the last thing, and I was just like,
Mhm.
"There's so much here, man."
This song in particular has a really beautiful middle eight, like what they call a bridge or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The section that says the animals, how strange. I love that little bridge section. Just
Oh yeah.
most bands when they write a bridge, they're just sort of like, whatever. The song needs to go somewhere different for a while, and fuck it, whatever. But like, oh yeah, wrote really great middle eight parts, great little refrain breakdowns in the middle of the song.
Hmm. Yeah.
They put a lot of care into it.
Yeah. No, that I think that's very evident. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what this song is getting at, really. I mean, like I said, this whole album, very perplexing, very hard to figure out, very hard to try to analyze, and I'm glad I'm not the only one. I'm glad that this is like kind of like hands down very very complicated and complex record for people to try to digest.
Yeah, that's what makes it so great.
I guess so. I mean, like I said, I was never a big REM fan, and so I kind of like took it for granted that, you know, yeah, there's some pop band, they have the songs on the radio that I hear, and those are nice enough that I'll listen to those. But yeah, I'm probably going to go back and dig into the catalog. I already listened to some of the other records, but this one in particular is particularly profound.
Mm, it is. I mean, I think the first 4 albums are just all brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. Is that all IRS records?
Yeah.
For the first 4, yeah. Well, I mean,
They really had
that,
a run, you know.
yeah. With that being said, and we kind of already talked about what you're doing right now with Man's Body.
Yeah.
You got a new record you're working on, and the new album, A Set of Steak Knives, is currently out, even on vinyl, finally.
Yes. Right.
Now, you mentioned tour dates, but none that you can kind of mention right now.
Yeah, well, I can mention our Chicago date. One of the dates is
Sure.
April. Let me make sure I'm getting this right. Yeah, April 22nd, Friday, at
Okay.
Burlington Bar in Logan Square in Chicago.
All right, cool.
Believe we're headlining that show.
Did you have an official release for the record?
Yeah,
Like a show or some sort?
yeah. We had a show at Burlington Bar back in November as the release show. Where that was when we got the vinyls back in November. But we haven't
Okay.
really didn't really played like once or twice since then. So that's
Yeah.
why we're kind of launching things right now more.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great. And so, is there anything else that you're working on? I mean, I understand that Man's Body is kind of like your main gig right now, but
Mhm.
you obviously seem to like to keep busy.
Yeah, it's Man's Body. We're real busy on all fronts right now.
Yeah.
We're making headway through our third album right now. Um, we've got 12 songs in the can,
Wow.
so that are in various stages of being finished.
Cool.
And I think it's going to be really a great record. I'm really excited about it.
That's
But
great.
that's still a ways off.
Yeah. Yeah. I can only imagine if you're only in like the kind of mixing stage of it, you know, especially if you're going to do another vinyl pressing. I mean, you're potentially a full year out, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, is there anything else that you have to promote that you were kind of needed to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we covered it. Yeah.
All right.
Man's Body. We're on Facebook. If you want to go and pick up a copy of the LP, you can go to the Facebook store for Man's Body, which is I think it's Man's Body Chicago on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, and then or if you can go to there's a band camp that
Bandcamp.
what it's kind of confusing right now because there's the main band camp that we have doesn't have it on it. We started another band camp that does.
That's all right. I'll
So
find it. I'll find it, and
yeah,
I'll provide the links for everybody.
it might be bandcamp dot mansbodychicago.com.
All right. I'll find it. Don't you worry about it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. If you
And
can, let me know.
and do you still want people to buy these things too?
That's right. Yeah, the book is still available. It's still in print.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
I just
16
got this.
years
Like,
later. Yeah.
yeah, it's economic too, man. It's econo. Uh,
Right.
there's like I think 13.99
Yeah.
direct from the company.
Price
So
is right.
yeah, absolutely. For a great piece of writing literature that is incredibly informative about an incredibly important record. You
Thank
know?
you. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you, man. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me about it because it was it's very eye-opening, man.
Oh, for sure. Thanks for having me.
No problem, man. I hope to see you out there in the real world sometime.
Definitely. I'll try to come to Rhode Island.
Let me know if you do, man.
I will.
Cool. Well, thanks again.